What's up, everybody? My name is Hawk, and welcome to Let's Talk Hoops, show where we have great NBA conversations. Today, I have a couple of special guests, Carlos and Armando from Pegasus Media Podcast. Now, the way I met them was actually pretty interesting and honestly a lot of fun. I reached out to our Discord server and I said, "Hey, I'm looking to have conversations with NBA fans. Do you guys have any of your favorite content creators you want me to reach out to?" Carlos was like, "Hey, me and my boy, we have a podcast. We'd love to talk about the Miami Heat." So I said, "Let's set it up. Let's do it." So I'm
Yeah,
happy to have Carlos and Armando here. How you guys doing today?
we're doing good. Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yes, yes, yes. So my first question that I ask everyone that comes on the show is, how did you become a fan of your team? So how did you become Heat fans?
Probably the probably the Dwayne Wade era, and yeah,
I
and
like that. I
with
like that.
LeBron, yeah.
It's a funny story actually. I I really when I was younger, I wasn't really much of a basketball fan. I was more of a soccer fan, but I remember walking down and seeing my dad was watching like basketball, and I remember the game was a Heat versus Knicks game. I think it was around like 2010,
Nice.
and I just remember watching it, and I just remember thinking, man, these guys are so cool, and like I fell in love with like how Dwayne Wade used to play and how Braun was. So I've been a fan ever since, and I've it's been a hell of a ride.
Yes, yes, it has. That's a good time to get on with the Heat. That
Yeah,
was a good era for sure. So I got a bunch of questions about that Miami Heat for you guys today. I think it'll be a really fun conversation. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it.
yeah.
So, if you asked most NBA fans around the league who's Miami Heat's best player, I feel like most people would say Jimmy Butler. But you could also make the argument that Bam is the best player because of what he brings defensively and offensively to you guys.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
My question for you guys is: during the playoffs this past postseason, there felt like times where Bam wasn't as aggressive or as assertive offensively that I think that some people might have wanted him to be. So, what are your thoughts on Bam going into the season? Would you like to see him take a step forward offensively? Do you think he can take a step forward offensively? Maybe I'll start with that.
And Bam could definitely improve his game offensively, and defensively he is extremely well, but offensively he could extend his range. Yeah,
I think Bam has like he's at a point where he can grow so much as a player, both on the offensive side and the defensive side. So I do think it's possible for him to take the step forward in his game, and I'm expecting him to do so. I think the playoffs was just like I think he was just like worn out of everything he did
Mm,
in the season, and he just didn't have the legs under
yeah,
him.
that's a good point that I don't know if I really took into consideration when it came to Bam in the playoffs because you got to remember that he was injured and missed basically almost all of November and
Yeah,
December with the injury. That's a good point. So Kyle Lowry, I absolutely love Kyle Lowry. I love this time at Toronto. I thought when he went to the Miami Heat, it was going to be a perfect fit for you guys. I thought he was perfect for Heat culture. I knew he could play defense. He was a guy who didn't necessarily need to have the ball in his hand, like to be a primary scorer. I didn't think he would take away too much from the offense. However, going into this season, he was struggling with some injuries. He came in and I feel like what most people say a little bit out of shape and overweight, and had a less than stellar season. I've seen him recently in a couple of interviews. He looks a whole lot more in shape. He looks like he's excited for this upcoming season. What are your thoughts on Kyle Lowry going into this year?
I think last season it was just in terms of adjusting to the Heat, but I think going forward he is going to do a lot more than he has done this season.
I like that.
yeah. I think we're gonna see like the closest thing to Toronto Kyle Lowry this season because I think now that he's in shape and now that he's got a year under his belt and he knows his teammates, he knows what Eric Spoelstra wants. He's definitely gonna like adjust his game to that style, and I think, like you said earlier, he's gonna fit perfectly
Yeah,
into the culture.
yeah, because on paper, when I think about the player who Kyle Lowry is, and I think about what he brings to the game, I do think when he's playing his game and looks like himself, it should be almost a match made in heaven, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I definitely think he's going to be like one of the best. He's going to shine this season.
I like that. So I was admittedly a little hard on the Miami Heat when I did my off-season grades a week and a half ago. I gave them a D because I just had some concern about losing PJ Tucker, and to me, from the outside looking in, it didn't feel like the Heat made any additions to make their team better. I like the pick of Jovic, the draft pickup at the center position. I do like that pickup. But from the outside looking in, it looks like the Miami Heat are expecting some of their guys. We talked about Kyle Lowry, we talked about Bam, to kind of sort of either gel better or take another step up. One of those guys and particularly want to ask you about is Victor Oladipo. He was a guy who was coming off of some injuries with the Pacers. He had some really, really good moments in the playoffs for the Miami Heat. And in a recent interview, I want to say he did it with Vince Carter, I was watching. He looks excited about this upcoming season. He said that he's calling it a revenge tour, but what he really means is I'm just ready to showcase who I really can be. So what are your thoughts on Victor Oladipo going into this year as well?
To be honest, I was a little disappointed about how he performed last season, but it's definitely exciting to see him improving, and I hope he can do better in the coming season.
Yeah. I think Victor Oladipo I still think he's always been one of the most underrated players in the league, and I think that 2018 playoff run where he that series against LeBron and the Cavs when he took them to 7, that was one of the best playoff series I've seen, and I think Victor Oladipo is gonna like take that step like back into what he was in Indiana.
Yeah, I can see that because yes, that playoff series was very, very exciting to watch, and I would agree that Victor Oladipo, I think, is one of the more overlooked players in the league for sure. Another guy who I think the Heat are having or hoping to have a bounce back year. That's kind of the theme I have for the Miami Heat this year, just a bounce back, because I feel like a lot of their guys didn't look as well as maybe we would have expected him to last year. But another one of those guys in particular is Duncan Robinson. He's under this contract for another 4 years. He was a guy who, especially towards the end of the season in the playoffs, got a lot of DNPs, coach's decision. His shot wasn't really looking like himself. But he's a guy who I think can really still be a really good contributor for you guys this going into next year. What are your thoughts on Duncan Robinson?
I think one thing that he needs to figure out what role he can be on that team, because when we made that finals run in I believe it was 2020 when we made it to the finals, he was really looked as I would say the third best player on that team because of how good he was and how good shooting was. But then Tyler Hero blew up this season, and the minutes that he was getting really got cut down. So I think he just has to find himself and figure out what type of player he can be on this team.
I like that. It's interesting because I feel like in theory, the way the Heat run their offense, his shooting, if he can find a way to make himself impactful, to make himself stay on the floor, his shooting will be perfect for you guys. Because when you have guys like Jimmy and Bam, who Jimmy at times can shoot, but we all know Jimmy's not, raining a whole bunch of threes, and Bam's not really stretching the floor that much either outside of the mid-range. Having a guy like Duncan Robinson who can shoot the ball at a high clip, at a really efficient clip, would be great for your spacing.
Yeah.
So outside of Bam, outside of Jimmy, we talked about Duncan Robinson and Victor Oladipo a little bit. Who are you guys most excited to see on your roster this year?
Tyler. Man, I have a feeling that Tyler Hero is gonna take that next step into superstar level, because he reminds me and I've said this on the show and I've said this privately to a couple of my friends. He's like what if Klay Thompson and Ray Allen mixed, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think because you see the shooting style, I think if he can get better defensively, he's going to be one of the best players on that team. So I'm excited to see how he improves heading into the season.
I'm excited about Gabe Vincent. I think he has a lot of potential, and he's already one of the better shooters in the Miami Heat.
Yeah. I like that you picked Gabe Vincent because I feel like I'll admit myself, and I think along with a lot of the rest of the NBA fandom, was really our eyes opened up to what Gabe Vincent could be for you guys this playoff season. I think a lot of people were like, we knew Gabe Vincent, but we didn't really know how good he really could be. And he showed off these last playoffs for you guys.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It was incredible, especially that.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you guys love the Heat, but I'm sure you guys, and I've heard you guys on your podcast talk about other NBA teams. So outside of Miami Heat, what team are you most excited to see this upcoming season?
Golden State.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how this whole thing unfolds in LA with the Lakers, because I want to see like what Braun does and how Westbrook plays. I'm excited to see the Lakers, but also Golden State.
Gotcha. Nice. And then my last question, because I know you guys are also soccer fans. Who's your favorite team?
Real Madrid.
Barcelona.
Nah, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. When I did watch soccer, my favorite team, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was Real Madrid. And that would have been 2008, 2009-ish. Yeah.
That was a good choice.
Well, guys, yeah, it was. Guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. Let the people know where they can find you. I'll have all your descriptions, your links to all your socials, your podcasts and stuff down in the description below. But let the people know where they can find you as well.
Yeah. So we've got our Instagram, which is
Pegasus Media
_pod, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah, it's Pegasus Media _pod. And then we've got 2 Twitter accounts.
Pegasus _English and Pegasus _Español.
And then you can find our podcast on all the major podcasting services. So we're on Apple Music, we're on Spotify, Amazon, we're on Anchor, and I believe we're also on Google.
Yeah.
So that is where you can listen to the shows.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on today, Carlos and Armando. I'll definitely be reaching out probably later in the season to get you guys back on the show to get an update on your Miami Heat maybe a month or 2 into the season.
Yeah, that'd be incredible, man.
Yeah.
We will gladly do it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.